beneficial things to happen for me, to kind of give more of a direction to whatever gift and talent that Yah had put in me that kind of was just laying dormant. Because like I said to you before, had you not hit me up or anything, I just stayed at the crib,
Me too. Yeah.
Just stayed at the crib and hung out, not really did anything, but joining you and being part of the ministry, I was able to see and analyze. All right, where are the necessities? You see what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
what's a gap that I could fill? Because boom, we got somebody teaching, got somebody already familiar with what's going on in the nation already. Whereas I'm like, okay, cool, where are we? You see what I'm saying? So came in and realized, all right, boom, a lot of men dealing with the whole pride issue. That's why dudes are always arguing.
Right.
A lot of females feeling that they're not being addressed correctly. So
Right.
look at those things. And it wasn't all just problems, because what I realized was that I came to understand that, look, we're the people of the word. We're the people that the oracles have been given to.
Right.
So now it was like, all right, let me embrace and take on the burdens that the nation may be having.
Right.
Humble myself to it, submit myself to it, and see what what kind of response is provoked within me through the spirit of Yah, so that I can adequately respond and adequately address whatever it is I had to do. Because, came in blank slate, don't know. So, yeah, did more of a service, seeing where I'm needed, and then just addressing it from there.
All praises. All praises. Definitely a lot of service, because we are a works-based assembly. This is what we do. We pride ourselves on not taking the credit, but doing the work, trying to do the most work. We compete, and who's going to do the most work? Who's gonna help the nation the most? And that's provoking each other into righteousness. I will say how I've been affected. To start with you, how you've affected me is if I didn't have a younger brother that I was just a few years ahead, that was humble as you were, that saw in me what I saw in you, then I might not have had the desire or the motivation to continue, because it's almost like when we were going to the gym. It's like, I gotta go because Jonathan is going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, this brother, trusted me to help him with his immersion, and he took on some of the battle that I was taking by trying to do the right thing, and now I have to, because it's like, all right, I helped him. I knew what was going to happen, and I can't just leave you. So and all of this is not my design or your design. This is the will of the Most High. So it forced me to be responsible. Like, all right, well, now you got to keep studying and keep, making sure that, you can continue bringing the word in a way that we can both learn. Because I was teaching myself at the same time we were learning, and watching how you came in, because it's not like I'm an elder. I'm like, 50 years old with a gray beard down to here. So you knew that there were going to be certain things that I was going to be wrong about. There was going to be certain things I was going to be right about, certain youthful mistakes I was going to make. But you didn't judge me. You stayed patient. You helped me also perfect certain things that I needed help with. You were strong enough to disagree when you saw something wrong, and not just, well, I ain't going to argue. I'm going to do what I do. And you know how I am. I believe in what I teach.
Indeed,
but
indeed.
But you also know that I'm gonna hold the truth of the word above everything. So you tarried, and you showed me. And a lot of times, I made a fool of myself. Oh no, I know, because this is what I was taught prior to here. And you were like, nah, I see something different here. And I'm like, I can't see anything but what I was taught, and this is what it was. And you tarried, and I would see how you handled things so humbly. It's like I was learning by watching your humility.
Oh, yeah.
And it helped me in my ministry. It helped me in my walk. And then, you've seen a lot of the good and the bad within me, and you've seen my growth, but you never judged me based on that. And you allowed me to grow and to manifest into what I'm becoming. And I really appreciated that loyalty, and I really
Yeah.
appreciated having another servant that I knew no matter what was going to have my back. And you know, the elder, same way. The elder was there in the beginning. He was, a little bit more integral in the personal matters of the family and the character and all that, and he helped all of us do that. And what I really appreciated is that we were all able to bring what it is that we had to the table without feeling threatened by anybody's gift, but instead we acknowledged the gift in each other and said, hey, let's put this together, let's put it out. So that really helped me see, after having such bad experiences with other people, it really helped me see, listen, there are other people out there that are imperfect like me, but want to serve the Most High to perfection and are seeking to do that.
Indeed.
So I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that was involved. There's a lot of brothers that came from other assemblies that came to us and helped us and attended some of our classes live, provided input, people from all over the country. We definitely want to give a shout out to Yeshayahu, who's out in NY, and his wife, Shara. I want to give a shout out to the Kings in Augusta, Yeshaya and Sister Tanya. Definitely a shout out to Yishak, Yisrael in Philadelphia. Gave us mad love. Was one of the brothers that also helped us in the beginning, coming on the classes, providing some information. Paliyahu, definitely in Cali. Yep. I know I'm forgetting so many of them. Kessid, Brother Kessid, Brother Jonathan, Greer from his assembly in Kentucky. A lot of brothers that supported us, that helped us, that encouraged us, gave us a platform on their own things. So we appreciate all of that. Again, this is not about us. It's about the nation. And we are so excited because we know that we have the opportunity to affect 10,000 plus people and their friends. They might happen to stumble on a Bible study or see something. So I appreciate it. Anybody else want to comment on their journey or anything before we get started in the Q&A?
I just wanted to say something. Someone commented that the YouTube was down.
Says it's streaming.
Okay.
Yeah. Toda, they said if the YouTube was down, it looks like it's up.
Oh,
Okay. All right. So we're gonna get right into it, just like we thought. We got these Q&As. One of the first ones up is one of the first questions we always get. Brother Anthony Banton said, "Why are you prophesying with your heads covered?" And he said 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 4. So again, this is an open forum. Any questions you have, I don't care if you say, why your head so big? I don't care, whatever it is. We'll get into it. We'll get into the questions. So 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 4. Let's go ahead and read that.
All right.
Or just start at 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Excuse me, chapter 11 and verse 1. I'm sorry. That's one of the most popular questions that we get.
Why y'all brothers got your heads covered?
So we're going to first read what he's talking about here in the New Testament, which is commentary. That's, divine commentary from Brother Saul, who's talking to Israelites and Goyim that are away from Jerusalem. And he's talking to them about their assembly and how they're to conduct themselves.
1 Corinthians chapter
11. That one stays, there's like a permanent indent in the Bible in 1 Corinthians chapter 11 on our Bible studies.
Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Mashiach. Now, I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Mashiach, and the head of every woman is the man, and the head of Mashiach is Yahweh. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head.
All right, so that's the question there. Verse 4. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head. All right, well, point number one, this is not a law. This is somebody giving you commentary. Now, this is a special vessel giving you commentary. We want to acknowledge that. This is a special vessel unto Mashiach. Mashiach said, no, he is a special vessel unto me. So we take that very seriously because this is somebody that the word selected. All right. Notice it says every man praying or prophesying, comma. So it's talking about a man praying or prophesying. I am not praying right now. We are simply reading the Bible and studying that. That does not make us saying a prayer, and it definitely doesn't make us prophets prophesying. Because at the end of the day, if every man or person that read the Bible was considered prophesying, then they would be prophets. And Yah says, I talk to my prophets in a vision or a dream. The only vision you've seen is what we're videotaping. That's not what he was talking about in a vision or a dream. So again, in the beginning of every Bible study and at the end of every Bible study, we say all brothers remove their head covers because we're getting ready to pray before we open up. And all sisters pray with your heads fully covered. We say that as well. So we respect the culture. This is culture. This is not a law, but this is culture. All right. Now we're going to go even deeper. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head. So, Jonathan, let's take a look at that word covered. Let's see what they're talking about here.
Having his head covered. That is G2596.
Okay.
G2596.
All right, so G2596 is kata. Kata. Spelled K-A-T-A. Now, keep in mind when you read in the New Testament, you're dealing with Greek. So you're getting a translation of a translation. Kata. And that's spelled K-A-T-A. That is down in varied relations. Literally down. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head down. That's one meaning. Keep that in mind. Another meaning is in varied relations according to the case. Genitive, dative with which it is joined about, according, after, against, alone, among, apart, as, aside, before, beyond, to the charge of, concerning. Now it says plus covered. Interesting. So that word means all of that, but then there's covered in there. Concerning, down, every, exceeding, more excellent for, from, godly, in, after the manner of, by any means, beyond, measure, mightily, more, natural, out, over, against, own, particular. So a lot of this is directional. Notice that. A lot of this is directional in that word kata. By after, out, through, throughout, thus, uttermost, in composition. It retains many of these applications, frequently denotes opposition, distribution, or intensity. So how did they get this word covered from this word kata with all this? Now, when they want to talk about having your head covered, there's a word that they use that gives you that. All right. So every man praying or prophesying, having his head, the first thing they put here is down. What are you looking down for? What's in the ground that you're looking at? Everybody, when you see praying in this Bible, unless they're prostrating and they're all the way down, which is full submission, their hands are up and they're facing the Most High. Verse 5. But every woman that prays or prophesies with her head uncovered, Now you getting a word that's giving you more.
That's G177.
And go ahead and read that when you get there. So you see, you have one word that says covered, and it means a bunch of different things, directional, and then they threw in plus covered. It also means covered too, right? That's what the Greeks did, which is confusion. Then now you get to here, the opposite should be the opposite. So if it's the opposite of kata, then it should be a direction, another direction. But it doesn't say that. That lets you know they're playing with some stuff. Go ahead.
G177. And that is akatakaluptos. Akatakaluptos. From and a derivative of compound kata, unveiled, uncovered.
And it has from G1, which is Afa, the first letter of the alphabet, only the first often used, also in composition. So it has from G1 as a negative particle and derivative of compound of G2596, which is kata, and then G2572, which is now, here's a new word now. Kalupto, G2572. Kalupto, spelled Kalupto. That is akin to G2813 and G2928, to cover up. So if they were going to use having your head covered up, they would have used kalupto. This is the same language, Greek. To cover up, to cover, to hide. So again, when you're reading this, get into the word so you can at least understand what is being said in the Greek. Okay? And then now it says, but every woman that prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonoreth her head, for that is even all one as if she were shaven. For if the woman be not covered, again, katalalupto, to cover wholly, let her also be shorn. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. Again, verse 7. For a man indeed ought not to katalupto or katalupto, not the same word before where it says covered, a kata. It says katakalupto, G2619. That is to cover wholly, to veil, cover, or hide. For as much he is the image and glory of Elohim, but the woman is the glory of the man. So it's saying, indeed, a man ought not to cover his head fully. It's using the same word that they use for the woman, saying that she should not be uncovered. So it's letting you know what this is talking about. And it's saying how she should be covering her head fully. That is the full covering of your head. That's not just covering the top of your head. That's not the same thing. The priests wore bonnets which covered the top of their head. So this was our culture. So what are the priests? Are they disrespectful? Or is this being mistranslated? Because Yahweh told the priests specifically to cover their heads. And even more specific, he told the branch of the sons of Levi to never uncover their heads. So why would one sentence in Torah, where we're given the law and we're being shown how to be set apart and how to be a servant of the Most High, is he going to say, cover your head, and as a matter of fact, you that are even closer to me, never uncover your head? Then fast forward to the Greeks, where you're talking to a bunch of Gentiles that are not Israel, and a bunch of people that group around Gentiles that don't even know the laws of Israel and are Israel. He going to try to teach them something that's opposite of Torah. That don't make sense.
We got comments from Brother Yitzchak Paliyahu and Brother Jonathan Greer. So Yitzchak has said, also this is talking about authority. His head being covered means he has another authority or covering than the Mashiach. And we have a greeting to Ak beloved Dawid. Go ahead and say what's up to him. And
Shout out to beloved Dawid, man. If y'all ain't heard this man's music, you know what I'm saying? He's inspired a lot of us. I know he got my brother Jonathan back in the studio, so you know he's hot. So you definitely want to check out Beloved Dawood, or Dawood, excuse me, D-A-U-D, Dawood.
And then Paliyahu said that it means to be fully veiled. Men were veiling themselves at the time, so he's making it clear that was talking about the men being veiled fully and that they shouldn't veil fully.
Right.
In concordance with what you were saying. And then Brother Jonathan says, right, the veiling of the head, two different definitions.
Excellent. And why would that be dishonorable to veil your head when you're praying or prophesying to the Most High? What is a time that a woman will veil their whole head? It's usually in black, by the way. What is the time she's going to veil her whole head? And you see this in grieving. Amen. Exactly. In grieving. When a woman goes to a funeral, she veils her whole head in black because she's making the ugliest faces you'll ever see. Because she's in pain. She's disfigured from hurt of losing somebody close to her. The Most High said, no, you are not to come to me in that kind of state. Humble yourself. If you crying and you making ugly faces, take your behind in a closet somewhere. Let me see who you truly are. There's nothing to be ashamed. Humble yourself. A broken and contrite spirit is the sacrifices Elohim, which will not be despised. Exactly. And I'm glad the brothers and praise y'all for the brothers coming in and saying the things that they say, because it shows that there's multiple witnesses here. And now we're going to take not only from the New Testament, we're going to go into the Old Testament. You're going to see an example where a brother was veiling his head and why he was veiling his head.
So we have R3 Campbell who says, after a hectic day, it's nice to join in on scriptural studies. And then Anthony Fields says, you brothers should be uncovered. You dishonor the Lord. Well, we're going to go into Torah about his instructions about head covering.
All right.
Being that, the point of Israelites gathering was pretty much to get back in tune with our original culture before our dispersal.
Right.
Which was part of which was the covering of the head.
All praise. And by no means do we take offense when people, ask us that question or try to rebuke us for that, because it says that in English. So we understand. If that's the furthest you've got is an English understanding and a camp doctrine, we understand. No problem. We were there too. We've all been there. We've all learned certain things. We've all been taught camp doctrine. But again, it's to get out camp doctrine. And there it is. Our brother Yitzhak covered right into there. Came right into there because that's exactly where we're going. All praises. That shows you the spirit is aligned. We're going to 2 Samuel chapter 15. And our brother Yitzhak Yasharah, he said, David himself covered his head during prayer. He took the covering of the priest to pray. Exactly. And you're going to see the people that would put a turban on their head, which is to cover their head fully, were the high priest and kings. So King David would have had his head veiled. He would have had his head fully covered, wrapped with a turban. That's how he would have had his head. And here's a time where you're seeing him being fully veiled, where even his face was veiled. And this is 2 Samuel chapter 15. And let's see, where are we going to start? And we're going to start, let's start this at verse 1 so we see what he mourning about.
All right. And it came to pass after this that Absalom prepared him chariots and horses and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so that when any man had a controversy, came to the king for judgment, then Absalom called unto him and said, of what city are you? And he said, your servant is of one of the tribes of Yasharal. And Absalom said unto him, see, your matters are good and right, but there is no man deputed of the king to hear you. Absalom said moreover, oh, that I were made judge in the land, that every man which has any suit or cause might come unto me, and I will do him justice.
All right, scroll down to verse 13 so we can get straight to the point.
And Absalom was one of the first accounts of propaganda.
Right, right. That misinformation.
Yeah, there's one. Then there's the one where he sent his boys around the town and was like, "Long live the king, Absalom," or something like that.
Exactly. That misinformation. Tell it, hey, look, everybody is behind Absalom. He's good, and this is his own son. And furthermore, he's also another person you can use to dispel the other myth that they got in 2 Corinthians. And we're going to get into that as well, since we're going to get in 2 Corinthians, because somehow we're taught that if you have longer hair than short hair, because even long, what's long? Mm-hmm. You ask a Rasta if your hair long, he'd be like, your hair short. You're going to tell me my hair is short. You know, you ask a Nazarite about length of hair, he's going to say, oh, you're beginning your vow, obviously. Mm. You know, so anytime the Most High gives us a definition of you shall not do this, he's going to give you specifics. Cover this, cover that, this length. He's not going to go as far as to tell you, oh, if your brother dies before he has a child, a male child, then you got to sleep with his widow and raise up seed in his name. He's not going to be that specific, but leave out how long your hair is supposed to be.
2 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 13. And there came a messenger to Dawid, saying, the hearts of the men of Yasharal are after Absalom. And Dawid said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly, and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servant said unto the king, behold, your servants are ready to do whatsoever my sovereign the king shall appoint. And the king went forth, and all his household after him, and the king left 10 women which were concubines to keep the house. And the king went forth, and all the people after him tarried in a place that was far off. And all his servants passed on beside him, and all the Cherethites, and the Pelethites, and all the Gittites, 600 men which came after him from Gath, passed on before the king.
So he's having to run from his own people, from his own son. And look who he with. The Pelethites. Wasn't that the Philistines? I believe that's the Philistines.
I think there was another word we saw with that one. I think Philistines had that weird.
Oh, Pella something.
Apocalyptos or something like
something
that.
Yeah, okay. But the Pelethites, the Cherethites, these is executioners. These were killers. The Gittites, again, these are in Gat. So it is. Pelethites is these are talking about. Pelesheth is the name of the original place where the Philistines were at. Mm-hmm. So that is the Philistines, because the Gittites is Gath. So that's literally the Philistines. So he's with the Philistines, the same people that he slayed, and some murderers, some straight up killers that are running with him. He's being foreign in his own land. He can't even serve with his own people, because the sword, it said the sword will never depart your house because of what he did. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Verse 19, then said the king to Ittai the Gittite, wherefore goest you also with us? Return to your place and abide with the king, for you are a stranger and also an exile. Whereas you came but yesterday, should I this day make you go up and down with us, seeing I go whither I may return you, and take back your brethren? Mercy and truth be with you. And Ittai answered the king and said, as Yahweh lives, and as my sovereign the king lives, surely in what place my sovereign the king shall be, whether in death or life, even there also will your servant be.
So that shows you when a man's ways is right with Yahweh, even he has peace even with his enemies. This is his enemies. This is people that we had to go fight against, that wanted to kill us. And these people are being confederate to him, because they can recognize the righteousness in King David. And King David could have went and tried to slay his own son, but he didn't. Go ahead.
And Dawid said to Ittai, go and pass over. And Ittai the Gittite passed over, and all his men, and all the little ones that were with him. And all the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. And the king also himself passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over toward the way of the wilderness. And lo, Zadok also, and all the Levites were with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of Elohim. And they sat down the ark of Elohim, and Abiathar went up until all the people had done passing out of the city.
And Zadok, again, the Zadokians, are going to be the ones that are going to be doing the priesthood in the sabbatical kingdom, because they stuck with King David. They didn't go with where everybody else went. They stuck with the anointed priest. And they risked their own lives for King David, allowed him to eat off of the holy, the showbread, and stuck with King David when they were killing prophets. And when they were killing people that were going against Saul and other people like that. So the Zadokim are going to be the ones that are going to be doing the animal sacrifices and blood sacrifices when we get back into the sabbatical kingdom. Go ahead.
You know, there's some context here that I wanted to get into, because we see as soon as that cry went out through the land, you know, long live Absalom or something like that, Dawid fled. Now, what I want to know is, do you think Dawid had somewhat of a guilty conscience after hearing from the prophet that the sword shall never depart from his house? Do you think that he felt like this was a
she's stronger than you because you sick or you injured or whatever, and you can't restrain her? You know what I mean? The only option you have is to flee, because if you don't, you're either gonna just get killed or you have to kill your wife. So King David did not have an option. If I stay here, I'm gonna have to fight my son. Wow. He's gonna come, and how do you win that battle?
You kind of don't.
You're gonna lose, period. So what King David, and this is what my belief is, King David fled because he knew this man is got a demon in him, and this is judgment against me. The only thing I can do is leave, walk away, because if I stay here, my people gonna die. His people, and this is his people. All of them are his people. It's better if I just leave, because I brought this on myself. He knew. That's why when that man from Saul's family was cussing at him from across the way, he said, no. What was it? Benaiah was like, let me go over there and take his head off. He was like, no. Be easy. The same person that sent him over there to cuss at me is the same person that's going to take care of him. So, you know, how we know Yahweh didn't send this man to do this. So David was a man of Yahweh's heart. You know, he understood that. What do you think was his motivation?
I mean, I would love to, because the context, it doesn't really go into what Dawid's, you know, inner meditation was. But yeah, along those lines, you know, after getting the prophecy from Nate, you know, knowing the trust and the devotion that Dawid has to Yah, you know, we don't read like the other kings after him. We don't read about him scorning the prophets for the message that they gave him. Right. Or, you know, him deciding that he's going to kill a prophet because he don't like the message that came through them. Through them. So he heard the words of Nathan. He heard about the sword not departing from his house. He understood it when, was it Tamar?
With the baby.
Yeah, he
understood it with Tamar.
Yeah, he understood it when Tamar, was raped.
And the brother, right?
Yeah. And, was it? No, it wasn't Abner. Abner was
Amnon.
Amnon. It was Amnon. And you know, he I'm sure he grieved, but he knew exactly why this was befalling his household. And you know, I could only conject that the reason he fled as soon as the cry went out throughout the town that, you know, long live Absalom and stuff like that. He just fled, like, and you know what you said kind of bridged that gap. Either I'm gonna stay and have to fight my son, and if he loved the Most High as deep as he did, I'm sure he had a immense love for his own son. You know, I understand the type of love my own father has for me. Right. You know, times where I was acting out of hand, and how his love, in his love, he was kind of hesitant to speak. Right. A certain type of way. You know, like, because he didn't want to end up in a contention with his son. So that's definitely understandable.
Right. And if I remember correctly, did not Amnon
Absalom kill him?
Did not Absalom kill him?
I think Absalom did kill him.
I was trying to look for that.
Actually, I think
Absalom kill him.
He did? Absalom killed Amnon, didn't he?
He killed his brother.
Yeah, okay. He did. Yeah. So you got a brother that killed his own brother for raping his sister, and now he's trying to take the throne from you. What you think he gonna do to you? Now, you know what? King David know Yahweh with him.
I think Absalom was banished for a while too, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. Before all of this. Mm-hmm. And then his I don't think it was Abner. Who was his right hand man that was like the head of the armies that he gave the command to? It was Yoel. He gave the command to his right hand man to send the Hittite into the front lines.
I believe that was Benaiah, wasn't it?
Nah, it was I think it was Yoel. And hey y'all, please feel free to jump in.
Fact check.
Yeah, I think we got
who sent who did he send
the message? Who did Dawid give the message to put the Hittite on the front lines?
Mhm.
And what was the Hittite's name? I don't know why I'm drawing all these blanks.
Uriah the Hittite. Yeah.
I want to say the guy's name was Yoel.
Yoab. It was Yoab.
So when Absalom got banished, Yoab had put some lady, gave her a charge to go to the king and say thus. And basically what she said is, look, as water spilled on the ground is unrecoverable, so does Yah always try to find ways to recover the little bit that's left or something like that.
Right.
So that a banished person can be restored unto him.
Come back. Right.
So that's how Absalom ended up coming back in the kingdom, and he was still scheming after that. But yeah, should I just continue?
Yeah. So again, for the people that are joining in now, we're talking about head covers. We were questioned why are brothers praying or prophesying with their head covered, and the first thing we addressed is that we're not praying or prophesying. When we pray, we remove our head coverings. And when we, if any of us to prophesy, then we are prophet. And I don't know, Yahweh hasn't come to me in a vision or a dream and given me some instruction to tell the whole nation of Yasharal. Not me personally.
Can you see Anthony Blanton's response? Because sometimes when I go out of it, it doesn't show me the whole comment list. But he also asked something about, he made a comment saying that it was meant in being, when you're doing religious teaching. And was that changed from Hebrew to Greek?
Mm-hmm.
Could you go over that? And then he also mentioned Corinthians 16 about contentious stuff.
Right.
I just
Sure.
To that comment.
To get into religious teaching, for one, who was doing the religious teaching in Israel? Anybody?
The priest.
And the priest was of what tribe? And what were they doing? Covering their head or not covering their head?
Covering their head.
And the high priest, his head was covered fully, and it was always covered. He couldn't even remove his head covering. So if you're saying it's pertaining to religious teaching, the teaching priest would have had his head covered. So I can dig with that. I can dig with that. That further strengthens the point. Now I will say that the law was pertaining to Levites. That's who the priests were originally, were Levites. But we are a nation of priests. And Yahweh always sanctifies a group first to teach them how to do something, then to spread it out to the rest of the nation. Just like he chose Yasharal first to teach us, then to give it to the rest of the nation, to be a light unto the Goyim. So this is the dress code of the priest. This is how he was instructed. So we went into that, head covered. Then we went into what it's really saying in Greek, covered fully covered. And the other priests came on the post and were able to put that as well to let you know, covered fully. Right. And you can pray with your head covered. That's absolutely right, Yitzhak. Because we are not covering our head fully when we pray. So only reason I take off my hat when we pray is not to cause people that don't understand the word to trip over this word. So I take off my head cover. I can come up here and I can teach and I can do all this with my head uncovered. I can do the rest of the class with my head uncovered. I have not violated anything. But because I understand the dress code of the priests, and I understand that, which we're going to get into next about the tribes, that we are likely either Benjamin, Levi, or Yehuda. And I don't know what bloodline specifically I could be from. Could be Benjamin, Levi, or Yehuda. And if I'm Levi, my head should be covered. So I'd rather be safe because it's not going to do anything to me to not have to have my head covered. I choose to say, you know what? I'm going to stay set apart. I'm going to cover my head. That's why you'll see me wear a cap. You'll see me use a wave cap, or you see me wear and again, when you look at bonnets were caps, literally. This wasn't a bonnet. Bonnets were caps. Caps have lids. But at the end of the day, either one is sufficient because it's circumferential. Hemispherical. It covers a hemisphere. It didn't cover it fully. The Jewish people knew that. That's why they put it right here on the tip of the back here, because they just wanted to cover a portion of the head. They understood that. So at the end of the day, we can be either way. I would never rebuke a brother for praying with his head covered or praying with his head uncovered. But again, because we are teachers and because we're on camera and to get people to understand in stages, we uncover our head and we respect that. So we did that. We talked about the covering. We talked about the Greek words that they were using, which meant cover fully or uncovered fully. And then now, because the brother said yes, when they were mourning, they would cover their heads, or a king would cover his head fully. So now we're in a story. We're seeing King David is mourning because his own son is coming for his head. He would have naturally been the king just by default, but he wants to usurp the authority of the anointed king that was anointed by Yahweh and his prophet, a true prophet, who would have had his head uncovered when he was praying or prophesying. When he was prophesying, he would not have had his head veiled. And Absalom is coming to kill him and take his kingship. And he's mourning. Oh, I got replaced. You ain't finna go up a hill and cry because you got replaced. I'm in my old age. I done lived a good life. I'm good. I've been running my whole life. I done had people trying to kill me my whole life. But when your son, your blood is trying to kill you, your blood went and ran a train on your wives on top of the roof, you are mourning. Mourning. So this is a king, this is a warrior they sang songs about. And he's crying, and his men are so dedicated to him, they want to go with him. And they crying. They even veiled their heads too, because they were crying. And no warrior want to stand around each other and look at grown men cry. That's embarrassing. So let's go ahead and continue. So we're reading that story, and Brother Yitzhak, Philly Cat, brought that up. That King David prayed with his head veiled. So I brought up one situation where it was veiled. In this situation, you can see why it was fully veiled in this situation.
2 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 24. And lo, Zadok also and all the Levites were with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of Elohim. And they set down the ark of Elohim, and Abiathar went up until all the people had done passing out of the city. And the king said unto Zadok, carry back the ark of Elohim into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of